Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching Indian Express Analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on StudyIQ IS English channel. Today is 29th of May and we are going to discuss important news and articles from the Indian Express newspaper. We'll start off with the yesterday's left out article that was about oil producing coalition of countries known as OPEC and OPEC Plus. And why are they in news? Because the prices of crude oil in recent times have fallen to an all-time low in the month of March. But after that, it recuperated a little bit, but still it is in the territory of quite a low price. So we'll understand how the dynamics of crude oil pricing works, what are the role of these organizations in driving up or driving down the prices of crude oil, and therefore these kind of coalitions become very important. This article is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective mostly because it deals with one of the most important commodity in the modern era, that is crude oil, which again is responsible for products like petroleum, diesel, aviation turbine fuel, in addition to many polymers that we use on a daily basis, right? So the origin of all these products obviously is crude oil, which is an important commodity. In the second article, I'll be understanding in great detail whether India is world's third largest or fourth largest or fifth largest economy. Why are we dealing with this topic? Because recently the CEO of Niti Aayog, he highlighted that India has surpassed Japan now to become fourth largest economy in the world after US, China, Germany, and then fourth is India. But again, you understand India is a democratic country. Everybody has a right to free speech, regardless of not that free speech is correct or incorrect, right? So people actually created a confusion of sorts that whether indeed India is world's third largest economy or fourth largest economy. So in that regard, I am going to clarify whether is India third largest economy, fourth largest economy or fifth largest economy. So we'll try to understand a very basic concept of economy in this regard, that is GDP, nominal GDP or GDP per purchasing power parity, right? So these are the topics that we are going to discuss. Second article is relevant from national income accounting, which is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, right? And also we'll try to solve a PYQ that appeared in prelims on the similar line, right? In the third article, we'll be dealing with another basic aspect of economy, that is minimum support price, because yesterday Government of India particularly announced minimum support prices for crops that will be grown in the upcoming Kharif season. So government has a tendency before every sowing season, that is in Kharif as well as in Rabi crops, government before that announces MSP for the crops and automatically revises the MSP that it had announced last year in the similar period, right? So we'll understand the concept of MSP, what all our crops are covered, what is the legal obligation of the government in MSP, and what are the factors that are utilized to calculate MSP, right? So everything we are going to cover relating to MSP in our today's discussion. This again is relating to GS paper 3 because it fundamentally deals with direct or indirect forms of subsidy in the field of agriculture, right? So this is what the third scheme is. Fourth scheme again is modified interest subvention scheme, which is a part of Kisan credit card, right? This is again a sort of loan which is extended to farmers in a country. So who are all eligible for loans under Kisan credit card? All of that we are going to cover in our today's discussion, and we'll also understand the modified interest subvention scheme, what was announced regarding this particular scheme, okay? And in the last article, I thought that all of these articles were relating to economy, and if I continue doing more economy articles today, you will run away and not come back tomorrow, right? So that is why I picked up the last article. This is relating to disaster management, that is the problem of oil spill in the oceans, right? So that is why we are going to cover this last article pertaining from GS paper 3 again, but relating to disaster management, right? Therefore, this is the article we are going to cover today. Now, in today's economy sections of the Indian Express newspaper, there were 3 more articles, right? So we'll cover them tomorrow so that not to get you overwhelmed relating to economy articles. So these are the 5 articles that we are going to cover. This is second article and fifth article in particular are lengthy articles, okay? And in addition to that, we'll also cover 5th generation fighter aircrafts of the Indian Air Force and also of the other air forces of the other countries. But this article, again, this discussion will be quite long. So I plan to upload this discussion at 9 p.m. today, okay? So please log into your YouTube at 9 p.m. to watch the videos regarding what are the benefits and what are the challenges in developing a 5th generation aircraft, okay? So these are the slew of articles we are going to cover today. Please pay close attention. The last article, 5th generation one, I'm going to cover in the 9 p.m. session, okay? Now there are many people who have joined here. Good evening, Navjyoti, Rishi, Gaurav. Sir, can I send you my mains answer written on other topics, or is it just restricted only to questions asked by you? Only restricted to questions asked by you. Gaurav, I understand your problem, but I'll request you to find a like-minded friend who is also giving mains or who is also preparing for mains. Get your questions evaluated by them. Similarly, also help him evaluate his answers, right? So that is how preparation works. Mini, good evening. Bhanu, Sipra, Gagan, Navjyoti, is it only me or the live session hasn't started yet? Well, I started it late, a bit or 1 or 2 minutes late. It's actually raining outside today in Delhi. Sonu, Jui Joshi, good evening. Namaste, Dhakkan Babu. Good evening, Baga. Physics, Gyansi, good evening, sir. I watch a recorded lecture due to my job, but your explanation is so smooth, crisp and helpful. Thank you, Physics. Reshma, good evening. Sipra, sir, I didn't find Indian Express analysis PDF in the Telegram. I upload it on a daily basis. How couldn't you find it? Right? So the PDF, if you have any doubt, these will be available after the session on the ATS live channel, right? So I usually take half an hour approximately, depending upon my commitments, to upload, but I surely upload them on a daily basis. So there isn't a chance that I hadn't uploaded. If you think I haven't uploaded, please let me know in the comments, okay? Shiba, Gaurav, Shiba, good evening, okay? So this is the Telegram channel where you'll find the notes ATS live. Okay, so please go to that channel, subscribe it if you still haven't, and download the notes. So let's start our today's discussion. Enough of the chit chat. So we'll start off our today's discussion by understanding this particular article, which actually appeared in the Indian Express, but I couldn't find that article in the Indian Express, so I took the screenshot. A similar article was there in Reuters. Actually, Indian Express, for many reasons, many news organizations, including Indian Express, including Times of India, they sometimes borrow articles from other news sites like Reuters, like NYT, etc. So there are the chances that similar article, if it appeared in the Indian Express newspaper, it might originated in website of some other news agency, right? So that is why I've taken this article. But basically this article says that the price of crude oil has fallen higher because OPEC plus output expectation weigh on the sentiment. Now this basically says that the supply of crude oil will increase so much by the organization OPEC plus, and you understand the cardinal rule of economics: if supply of any commodity increases, automatically the price of that commodity might reduce. Understood? So this is the basic gist of the article, but I will explain this article in detail. So let us understand the context of this article. Now you understand crude oil available in different parts of the world, they are categorized by different names. For example, crude oil which is available in US, in different parts of US, sometimes they are called as Brent crude. Even in the Middle East region, there are many other different grades. Also Western Texas Intermediate is also a grade originating in US, right? So these are the grades of crude oil that you need to understand. Now Brent crude futures, it fell by 1% and it closed very close to $64.09 per barrel. Similarly, the prices of WTI, it also settled somewhat below at 60.89 per barrel. But you don't have to remember the exact amount of prices. What you need to understand is the prices of crude oil is falling, and this is because of some reason I will tell you. Now, while there has been some minor recovery in prices in recent times, the general sentiment around the so-called black gold, so please understand crude oil sometimes is also called as black gold because of the demand of this product is so high everywhere and it remains bearish. So I have told you the difference between bullish and bearish. What is bearish? Bear actually attacks you with his claw and pushes you down. So whenever the word bearish is mentioned, please remember the price or value of that commodity will go down. Similarly, what does bull do? Bull actually attacks you with his horn and pushes you up. So whenever if it says it remains bullish, that means the price of that commodity or the value of that commodity will increase. Understood? So this is the relative meaning of the terms bearish and bullish. Bearish means down, bullish means up. Now it says the prices of or the general sentiment around the prices of crude oil remains bearish because there is a possible recession that may happen in countries like US and in the West, and increasing oil supply by Riyadh-led OPEC and its allies OPEC Plus. So here these two bodies, OPEC and OPEC Plus, becomes very important because they are a major factor in deciding the productions of crude oil, and ultimately they indirectly affect the prices of crude oil. So in this regard, let us understand what are OPEC and OPEC Plus. Now OPEC is basically a grouping of countries which was founded in 1960 in the city of Baghdad, that is the capital of Iraq. Now it then included countries like Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. All of them are major producers of crude oil in the world, and the formation or the ultimate aim of the formation of this group was to coordinate petroleum policies and so to secure fair and stable prices automatically. So whenever you are producing a commodity, you'd not want the price of that commodity to fall down a lot. Similarly, you'd want to control the volatility in the market so that there remains a stability. And if there is a stability in the prices of a commodity, you understand this will help the companies or the countries estimate profit quite easily, right? Now this OPEC Plus grouping, it includes 13 countries which mainly are from Middle East and Africa. What all are the countries in OPEC? I will let you know, need not worry, okay? And the contribution of OPEC in global crude oil supply is that they produce around 30% of world's crude oil. Similarly, there is a larger grouping called as OPEC Plus coalition, which includes members of OPEC and some other major producers of crude oil who are not the members of OPEC, and it primarily is led by another major crude oil producer of the world, that is Russia. And this OPEC Plus was formed in 2016. So the big question might arise in your mind, what is the difference between OPEC and OPEC Plus? The difference only is respected to the membership of these bodies. So current members of OPEC, these include Saudi, UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, Algeria, Angola, Libya, Nigeria, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon and Venezuela. So except Venezuela, all of these countries are in Middle Eastern region and the North Africa or West Africa region, right? So basically these countries are located in Asia and Africa barring Venezuela. Now major producers of crude oil who are not the members of OPEC, they have formed a larger coalition with OPEC, and it includes countries like Russia, Azerbaijan, an enemy country of India, Kazakhstan, Bahrain, Brunei, Malaysia, Mexico, Oman, South Sudan and Sudan. So basically countries in Central Asian republics, other Middle Eastern countries, countries in Southeast Asia, that is Brunei, Malaysia, similarly African countries, South Sudan, Sudan, and a Latin American country, Mexico. Humaira, Siraj, sir, is it enough to study only those articles in the newspaper which you are explaining? Yes. Basically, suppose if I leave out some articles today, I might have covered in our recent discussions, or I will cover it eventually in next few days, okay? So that is my intention. I study multiple newspapers and I estimate what kind of an article will appear next day or few days later so that I will be able to cover it. Understood, Sumera? So the basic difference between OPEC and OPEC Plus, you must have understood, is the difference in terms of membership. There is another big difference also. That is OPEC. I told you OPEC represented 30% of world crude oil production. OPEC Plus, obviously when it includes larger amount of members, it constitutes or it represents about 40% of total crude oil production, and the objective of this body is also the same, that is regulate the supply of oil in the world market. And in these two groupings, the major leaders or the major producers of crude oil are Saudi and Russia, which produce around 9 and 9.5 million barrels per day oil respectively in the year 2024. Understood? So this is the significance of these two bodies. I hope I have answered your question, Humaira, right? Now let us understand on a broader context what are the factors that determine the prices of crude oil. First, obviously, I told you there are two cardinal rules of economics, supply and demand. So we'll understand supply first, then we'll understand the demand. Now supply dynamics, it is affected by production decisions of OPEC Plus, obviously. So if they are producing more, so it automatically means that supply of crude oil will be more, and automatically this will cool down the prices of crude oil. Also, many countries like US, like India, they maintain a strategic petroleum reserves also. So when these countries, they maintain a sizable reserves of crude oil, and whenever they use these crude oil to supply these crude oil in the market, supply will again increase, and automatically what will happen when supply will increase? The prices will be cooled off. Understood the supply, how supply dynamics work in affecting the crude oil production. Now suppose if the production of crude oil reduces, automatically the reverse will happen, that is the supply will reduce and the prices will be pushed up. So this is how OPEC plus and OPEC in togetherness, they can tweak the supplies to affect the prices. It can either increase or it can decrease depending upon the supply. Now another factor in economics is demand of the product. You understand, crude oil obviously remains in demand, but there are certain factors that pushes the demand up. For example, global economic activity. Suppose if the global economy goes into recession, so obviously transport activities, production activities, manufacturing activities will reduce, and this will reduce the demand of crude oil. And when there is a reduction in demand of any commodity, price of that commodity falls. And similarly, if opposite happens, global economic activity is growing so high, it will push up the demand of crude oil products, right? And this will also increase the prices. Similarly, there are seasonal demand also. Suppose in colder climates like countries in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, in winter months, they use a lot of oil to use their heaters, right? So during the winter months, the demand for crude oil or petroleum products increase to power their heaters, and therefore the prices of crude oil also increases. This was the reason why European countries cried a lot when US imposed sanctions on Russian crude oil. Understood? Because they wanted crude oil to deal with winter that is quite brutal in those regions. Okay. Now another factor is the geopolitical tension. Sometimes conflict happens between these two countries, and if the conflict on one hand includes one or both of the countries who are major producers of oil, it also affects the supply of crude oil. Suppose Israel and Gaza went into a war, and it led to also indirectly involvement of Iran into the war. So it automatically reduced the supply of crude oil in the region. Similarly, it affected the transport of crude oil in the region, so it indirectly affected supply also. Also, Russia and Ukraine were into war. Russia is one of the major producers of crude oil, so it ultimately affected the supply of crude oil. And when supply of crude oil is affected, you understand prices, they rise a lot. Similarly, US imposed sanctions earlier on Iran due to its nuclear program, and after Russia-Ukraine war, it also imposed sanctions on Russia. So because of sanctions on Iran and Russia, the supply of their produced crude oil in the world reduced, and automatically it pushed up the prices. And also in terms of India, you understand, prices of crude oil, they are denominated in dollar. So suppose if the value of dollar increases, India will have to spend a lot more rupees to buy the same amount of crude oil, because you have to pay in dollars, right? So if the value of dollar increases, the price of crude oil for India increases. So these are the factors in general, in togetherness, they play a key role in deciding the prices of crude oil. Understood? Sir, why is Armenia and Azerbaijan in war? They are fighting over a region known as Nagorno-Karabakh. Okay, both of them claim the region. One country controls it, other country wants it. So India is indirectly supporting Armenia by supplying them with weapons, and automatically you can understand countries like Turkey, countries like Pakistan, they are supporting Azerbaijan. So this was the discussion that we had today relating to crude oil. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular PYQ that appeared in the Prelims 2020. Sir, is it useful to remember names of OPEC countries? Major ones, yes. Because you never know, UPSC may ask you a question. Yes, WTI is a grade of crude oil, as I've already told you. Now let's solve this. हुमैरा सिराज, आपका रिप्लाई नहीं, आंसर मिल गया? Well, OPEC plus I told you includes country from Central Asian republics, it includes countries like Russia, it includes countries like Mexico, right? So, and it also includes country like Malaysia, it also includes country like Brunei. So, OPEC actually are the grouping of 13 countries. OPEC plus is a larger grouping which includes 10 more members. So, first statement incorrect. And OPEC plus, I told you, they are responsible for 40% of global production in crude oil, not more than 60%. So, here also second statement is incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer to this question would be option D. Understand? Now let us move to next article. This one appeared in the explain section of the newspaper, and when I was reading it, that's why I posed a question in the Telegram channel whether India is the third largest world economy or fourth largest world economy, right? So let us address this question in our today's discussion. Now, over the weekend, Niti Aayog CEO, Mr. BVR Subramaniam, who earlier was the Chief Secretary of Jammu Kashmir when Article 370 was revoked, he declared that India had overtaken Japan now to become fourth largest economy in the world. Now, Mr. Subramaniam, he based this claim on a data from International Monetary Fund. Now, automatically, I told you India is a democratic country, so it led to two different and divergent set of reactions. First set of reactions was a wave of self-congratulations that India did to others, that congratulates, now we are the fourth largest economy. And another set of people, the curious, compulsive contradictors, they examined this issue and made counter assertion that India is not fourth, rather it is the fifth largest. So, how can you claim we are fourth largest economy, right? So, jokes apart, this brings a question. How do you estimate India is fourth, third, fifth, seventh, first, or what kind of an economy in the world? So, in this regard, let us get sorted with our basics first so that we are able to deal with such kind of questions if UPSC throws at us, okay? Now, first, let me tell you the economics of GDP calculation. That is the nominal GDP, which you witness quite oftenly as they are reported in the newspapers, okay? Now, one approach to look at GDP calculation, it is called as nominal GDP, and there are three ways basically to calculate GDP. The most common way to calculate GDP is to add all the goods and services that are produced in the economy and add their final value. So, when you add the final value of all goods and services which are produced in the India itself, you get what is known as GDP. So, this is basically the expenditure method, right? That the cost it incurs to you when you are going to purchase these goods and services in the market. When you add all of those goods which are produced in a particular year in India, that gives you the GDP of India, and this GDP is called as nominal GDP. There is also another way to calculate GDP. It is called as income method. That is, what is the income people are making from different factors of production, and if you add all the income people living in India, in the geographical boundaries of India, they are making, then you can add up all of that, and this is also called as nominal GDP. So, basically, if you calculate GDP through expenditure method and if you calculate GDP through income method, both of you will lead to a similar figure of GDP, and that is termed as nominal GDP. And it is this very figure of nominal GDP over which the controversy happened last week because of the statements made by Niti Aayog CEO. So, let us understand whether is India fourth, fifth, third as per the GDP of nominal GDP, right? Now, as you can see from this graph, I will make it quite simple. This line represents the GDP of India, and on the top you can understand it is the line of US. In the second, it represents the line of China, right? Sorry, not US, let me rephrase it. The green line, it represents the GDP of UK. Similarly, this line, this upar wala line, it represents the GDP of Japan. And the third line here, it represents GDP of which country? Let me think. This is the GDP of Japan, sorry, this is the GDP of Germany, okay. So, if you see from this graph, India's economic growth in nominal GDP steadily increasing, and it passed out UK's GDP, sorry, I have confused it a lot. So, the last line obviously is of India, this line is of UK, this line is of Japan, and this line is of Germany, right. So, India surpassed UK's economic growth. right at very close and also during the time of COVID pandemic, and India ultimately rose above the GDP of UK here, right? And therefore India became fifth largest economy. Now in this year, as GDP of Japan is following, India is expected to surpass Japan's GDP in 2025. So what this graph tells us that India is world's fourth largest economy anyhow now, right? And this is if you calculate GDP by nominal GDP. So this is quite clear from this graph, okay, that India slowly it is increasing, whereas other countries like UK, like Germany, like Japan, even if they are growing, they are not growing as high as India is growing, or in case of Japan, you can see this is stagnating GDP or sometimes even less. So in terms of nominal GDP growth, India is the fourth largest economy in the world. Now the problem with nominal GDP are many things, right? Because nominal GDP, first of all, across the world, it is published in terms of US dollar, and that creates a lot of problem. First, for India, you have to convert Indian GDP, which is published in Indian rupee, obviously, because value of all goods and services which is produced in India, they are denominated in rupees. That is our local currency. But you have to convert your GDP in US dollar terms so as to compare it with other countries, right? So the value of Indian GDP will also be affected by the value of dollar, and if the dollar is appreciating, it means Indian economy will not grow as high as compared to other countries with similar economic growth. But this is not a bigger problem. This everybody understands it, that exchange rate has gone up and down over the time, and this might affect on a shorter term basis the levels of your GDP. But the bigger problem with this nominal GDP that it does not take into account the purchasing power aspect of the currency, because you understand the prices of a commodity might vary significantly in India and in US. Similarly, for in US, if you have to travel 10 kilometers, you'll have to pay $10 for that, right? $10 in India effectively means 850 rupees. But similarly, if you are traveling in Ubers for 10 kilometers in India, it will charge you roughly 200 rupees. So there is a difference in taking a cab for similar 10 kilometers using the same app known as Uber, right? So this is what is basically the purchasing power parity. So for that, we also calculate our GDP using purchasing power parity. But before understanding how you calculate GDP using purchasing power parity, let me explain you the concept of purchasing power parity in a very easier way, right? Now suppose there were two friends in an engineering college. They were called A and B. And after the completion of their engineering, they got placement in a similar kind of a job in a similar company known as Tata Group, right? Now suppose person A got employed with TCS and he got salary offer of 50,000 rupees per month, and TCS posted him in the IT capital, that is Bengaluru, okay. Similarly, person B got placed in another Tata company known as Tata Steel, and Tata Steel offered him a pay of 45,000 rupees and he was placed in the Jamshedpur district of Jharkhand, right? So these two friends, they were placed in similar companies like TCS and Tata Steel, although in different profile, and they were also posted in different entities. A was posted in the city of Bangalore, which is IT hub of India, and person B was posted in Jamshedpur, which you can say is a steel hub of India, right? And both of them got similar salaries, albeit a difference with this. A got 50,000 rupees and B got 45,000 rupees. So who is better off in this regard? Let me know. Is A got a better deal or B got a better deal? कौन किसको ज्यादा अच्छा प्लेसमेंट मिला? Not equal, I'll say. Why? You know, because although A is making higher salary than B, but A is placed in Bangalore. The rental rates in Bangalore are very high as compared to Jamshedpur. So A has to spend a lot of money on rent. He might have to spend 20,000 rupees on rent. And in Jamshedpur, B might get a similar accommodation, albeit a bigger accommodation for just 10,000 rupees. Similarly, if A goes to market to buy fruits and vegetables, the fruits and vegetables or the cost of living is very high in Bangalore as compared to Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur is not as a bigger city as compared to Bangalore, so obviously fruits and vegetables will be available at much cheaper cost. So all in all, you can understand that despite having higher salary, A is spending a lot of money on cost of living. That is why I would say B got a better deal as compared to A. Now imagine person B moves to US. Instead of Tata Steel, he switches his job to an American steel manufacturer, and that company calls him to Pittsburgh, which is the steel hub of US. So if person B moves from Jamshedpur to Pittsburgh while person A is still in job in Bangalore, who will have a higher income? Will person B in terms of rupees will have a higher income, or person A who is living in Bangalore will have a higher income? So when you compare the income of person A who is still getting 50,000 rupees per month in India and person B who is making $100K per year in US, you can safely say when you convert this money into India, he is making approximately 85 lakh rupees every year. Whereas on the other hand, he is just making 6 lakh rupees every year in India. So you can safely say B got a better deal. He moved to US and is earning a lot of money in dollars. So when B will come back to India, he will get a lot more respect as compared to A. A will say, "तू क्या कर रहा है? Bangalore में ही तो रह रहा है." People will say, "Welcome B." They will ask him कि भाई iPhone लेते आना US से मेरे लिए. Right? So this is the difference between A and B. Now since B has moved to another country, he is getting a lot more money. But why is a steel company located in US offering him this much amount of money when this same person was getting 45,000 rupees in Jamshedpur? The reason is cost of living in US is a lot more as compared to India. Right? So suppose now you will see that when B is visiting India, he might be getting a more respect from your parents, from his parents, or from the entire society, but you will find odd things in his behavior. That when B visits India, he goes to a mall and gets a haircut. Similarly, he goes to a doctor and get his dental checkup. Similarly, B goes to a mall and buys suitcases for himself. And sometimes he even buys food from items. So when he goes back to US, he is getting Indian food item which he purchased at a lower cost. And the reason why is spending these kind of activities in India, because these activities like a dental checkup, like buying a suitcase, like getting a haircut, these are more cheaper in India. For instance, you get a haircut in a good salon, how much you're required to spend? 150, 200 rupees in a very good salon, right? So that effectively means you are spending $2.5 in India to get a good haircut, right? But if you go visit in a haircut salon in US, the minimum amount of charge you will be done is $30, right? So understand the difference. In India, the best places will charge you $2.5 to $3, whereas in US, a very bad salon will charge you $30. So that is why your expenses in US is a lot high. Similarly, you will also witness that person B will tell you he and his wife share household chores like cooking and cleaning. They do it together. Why? Because even if a person is earning a lot of money in US in terms of Indian rupees, still he won't be able to afford a household help in his place. Whereas a person living in Bangalore must be using the service of a household help to help clean his house or cook him food, right? So that is why you need to understand that the expenses in the countries might be different, and that is why in some countries they are paid a lot more money. Understood the difference? So that is why you'll have to calculate what is the purchasing power parity in these countries, and then you'll have to adjust your GDP according to it. I told you GDP is also estimated by adding all the incomes. So effectively, whenever people are earning a lot more money in US in comparison to India, automatically this will show higher GDP for US as compared to India. But that does not mean ki India is manufacturing more or US is manufacturing more. You have to at least compare them at a similar level. So that is why IMF also uses purchasing power parity to bring its GDP, and it is provided to IMF by International Comparisons Program, which provides an international comparable matrix of PPP estimate. So according to GDP based on PPP, India became world third largest economy back in 2009. But no politician is going to tell you that we are already third largest economy in terms of PPP. Everybody is highlighting our GDP in nominal terms so as to highlight we are fourth largest. So technically, India being a third largest economy economy is a bigger achievement as compared to fourth largest economy in normal GDP, right? But why isn't anyone highlighting this to you in your debates, right? You must be wondering it. There is a reason to it. There is a politics behind it. I will let you know. First, let us look at the graph. You will see in year 2009, there was a break in this chart, and this represents India's GDP growth. And there is another break near 2016. Here, China became world's largest economy in terms of PPP, whereas US now is world's second largest economy in terms of PPP. In terms of nominal GDP, the ranking follows with US, China, Germany, India, whereas in terms of PPP, world's largest economy is China, followed by US, followed by India. Understood now? Now, from this chart, we drew two important conclusions. First is that India's GDP, which was represented by dark green line, it broke away from the rest in the bunch and became third largest economy in 2009 by overtaking again Japan. And the more important fact about this is in 2016, China overtook US to become largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity. And this was the year when Donald Trump became president of United States for the first time, and since then you will see US administration has increasingly become hawkish towards Chinese economy, and that is why it is imposing policies like tariff so as to discourage the growth of China, because in PPP terms China has overtaken US. Right? Similar thing happened even during the presidency of Biden. He might pose a greater political threat towards Putin, but underlying the administration's outlook was China is a bigger rival of US as compared to Russia. Now, is India's achievement in terms of third largest economy in the world in terms of PPP or fourth largest economy in the world in terms of nominal GDP, is it a cause of celebration? I will say both yes and both no. Why? First of all, in nominal GDP terms, India no doubt has made a giant stride by overtaking some of the biggest economies in the world. You understand, UK, they ruled over us over 190 years, right? But now we have overtaken them in terms of economic growth. Indian companies like Tata Group, like other companies, they are buying entities in UK. So this shows India is a much powerful economy in togetherness. And of course, India will get a credit for a continuous economic growth which averages between 6 to 7% on an average since 2004. And you understand the benefit of 6 to 7% economic growth. That is, even if your inflation is 4%, even if you minus inflation in your economic growth, your real economic growth stands at level between 3 to 4%. Now, similarly, US is growing at 2 to 3% barely. So, even if US reaches to an inflation level of 2 to 3%, their average or a net growth rate becomes zero, and that is why it is a big cause of worry in US, which can't even handle 2 to 3% inflation. We can safely handle 4% inflation, and this is the fruits of high economic growth that we have got. So yes, it is a cause of celebration, but when you look this complete picture of GDP from other metrics, or when you compare India's growth with other countries, there is some cause of a worry. What is that cause of worry? Let me tell you. First is that barring US and China and India, all the major economies in the world, they are not growing as they are required to be. Almost all Western developed countries like like UK, like Germany, they are witnessing stagnant economic growth signs since 2008 global financial crisis, and the extreme case in this regard is Japan. You know, Japan's economy back in 1995 was higher than its annual GDP in 2005, which is a big cause of worry. So indeed, Japan's economic growth is not stagnant, rather it is falling. So therefore, it is much easier for any government in India to claim credit for growth in nominal GDP, but when you compare in PPP terms, India has improved its level, but it has stayed in a similar rank since 2009. So since 2009, now is what? Now is 2025. India has remained on its position of world's third largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. Now, why did I tell you there is a cause of worry or this is not a cause of celebration? Because there is a challenge that is posed with India. Because if you look beyond the figures of GDP, that is presented by Indian government, you need to also consider what is the per capita GDP in India. How you get per capita GDP in India? When you divide nominal GDP or GDP in terms of PPP, when you divide it by population, you get what is the per capita GDP, and when you compare per capita GDP in India, you'll see India is far below the other economies. So let us compare India's GDP with UK, as India surpassed the UK's GDP in aggregate terms in 2021, right? So in terms of GDP, you can see this is India's per capita GDP and this is other countries per capita GDP whose we compare in terms of aggregate. So this is the far difference between India and other countries, right? And when you compare this with UK's GDP per capita, in 2021, India's nominal GDP was what? $2,250. That is nominal GDP per capita. Whereas UK's per capita nominal GDP was $46,115, which was approximately 20 times more than that of India. Now coming to 2025 end, which is expected, US nominal per capita GDP would be almost $55,000, whereas India's capital per capita nominal GDP would be $2,879. So per capita income in UK in the last 4 years, they have risen by $8,000, which is 4 times India's actual per capita nominal GDP, and India's only has risen by $600. So you understand, this gap that I told you is not increasing, rather it is decreasing. So therefore, as a student of economics, you need to understand that there are far more different things as it is presented to you. So that figure that was told to you was not incorrect, that was definitely correct, but this figure is also correct. So this is not a cause of celebration. This actually shows that we have a long way to go, right? India is on a right path, but we need to do a lot more. So even in terms of per capita GDP, if you consider the GDP of PPP, India still languishes beyond the world average, because if world average is 100, India is at least 60% behind them. So therefore, it poses a big question to you that I will leave you with today's discussion. How useful is to get jolly or get afraid of India's rank on an aggregate metric when you consider in terms of per capita, India falls a lot behind. Understood? Any doubt? Quickly, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll move forward. This is the question that appeared in 2019 prelims. Okay, so let me know the correct answer of this question quickly. Or if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. See, in many articles, I tell you facts then and there itself. So it takes a less time to deal. But I understood this was a complex article, so I had to narrate a story behind it. That's why I took time. I hope you understand the differences in teaching sometimes. So understood? Yes, as India's population is so high, so even if we are growing a lot in terms of aggregate value, when you divide it by population, that figure will be quite less. Yes, this question appeared in 2019, and in 2019 also what? India was world's third largest economy in terms of PPP. So therefore, this was incorrect. India back then was 6th largest economy, but in terms of nominal GDP. So that is why this question played with you. First is automatically same. This is basically the difference of purchasing power parity. That is the comparison between the prices in one country with another for same basket of goods. Right? Now, what is GDP, how we calculate it, what are different values to calculate it, I deal with in great detail in the economy lectures that happen in GS Foundation batches, right? Right now, we are taking admission for May morning batch, which is expected to close on 31st of May, right? So if you want to take admissions in the May evening batch, you have until 31st evening to take the admissions. And you understand, next year also prelims is on which date? On 24th of May. And now, believe me, now is the right time to start your preparation. As you take more time to decide whether to take admission or not, you will lose out on very precious time. So please take admissions in this batches. What you need to do if you want to take admissions, go to our website, Once you go to our website, you will be needed to log in first by using a mobile number and then click on explore courses. When you click on explore courses, this upar wala tile will tell you what kind of a language you want to take your teaching in, right? So suppose if you're not comfortable in Hindi, it's quite fine. There is an option for you to take exclusively batches which are taught in English, UPSC IS English, right? Here you need to click on the left tile. When you click on the left tile, you'll see the diamond course is available at 37,999, right? Click on buy now. When you click on buy now, I'll tell you a way where you can get discounts even on that amount, right? 37,999. How to get discounts? Here you are required to add promo code. There is a code which is flashing on the bottom half of your screen that says use the code ATS live. Understood? So here you need to write ATS live. When you write ATS live and click on apply, see the discount of 7,000 rupees is now applicable, and see the value of diamond course falls from 37,499 to 30,999. Similarly, for platinum it's 27,500, for gold it's 16,999. So my recommendation to you is opt for a diamond batch and do not forget to use the code ATS live to get maximum discount and save your money or your parents' hard-earned money, right? And why am I telling you to take diamond batch? Because from this slide you can see all the features of StudyIQ are available in diamond. Some are not available in both gold and platinum. So choose accordingly whatever is good for you. But my recommendation, if you ask it, opt for diamond batch, right? Now let us move to the next article of the day. This is from 6th page. That says center has fixed MSP for 14 kharif crops and the highest amount of hike has been for millets like ragi and jowar, right? Now here the context said that central government yesterday announced minimum support prices for 14 crops for 2025 kharif marketing season. So you'll witness whenever the sowing of a particular season is expected to happen, few days before, the government announces what is called as a minimum support price. And this is a signal to farmers that see, we are offering higher prices for these crops, please try to grow these crops and sell it to us and we'll pay you MSP, right? And therefore you will see moong saw the lowest increase in prices, whereas millets like ragi and jowar saw the highest increase. So let us understand some of the background also why the cost of these millets have increased. Now in recent years, Government of India is promoting growth of millet crops for many economic reasons also, because growing these crops takes a less amount of resources, therefore cost less for farmers to grow these crops, and also these crops have similar kind of health benefits for consumers also. So government have declared them as Shriyan, right? And this also includes millets like ragi and jowar. Now in terms of growth, ragi only accounts for just 0.51% of gross cropped area, but you understand in recent times demand for ragi has increased. Going to a good restaurant, you will be surprised to find there is also ragi dosa available in the restaurants. So that is because of ragi has certain health benefits, and that is why restaurants are trying to sell you ragi based products also. Now ragi is majorly grown in states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, whereas jowar it's produced in states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. And I like personally jowar roti a lot, okay? That is called as bhakri in states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, okay? I hope students from Maharashtra and Gujarat will be able to relate to it. How many of you like bhakri? Please let me know in the comments. Now also moong is an important pulse crop. Majorly it is used in making khichdi, but also dals are also made in India using moong. And moong is majorly grown in states like Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh as well as Karnataka. Okay. So these were the relevant information from the article. Now what is more important is the question, what is actually MSP? How is MSP determined? Let us find that one out. Now there are discrepancies of information, so I will clear everything to you today, okay? Okay, Gagan, Ragi Madal, Ragi Mude, okay. Okay, Nafe, okay, Joey. We eat 3 times rice a day from Assam, India. Okay, okay. Assam, Bengal, Bihar, these states, Odisha, they depend a lot on rice. Rice is their staple food. Similarly, in northern states, wheat is their staple food. In southern states also, most of the food products, they are made out of rice only. Dosa, idli, even rice, they consume it a lot. Right. So let us understand MSP. Now, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, this is the body which has the power to announce MSP. But the recommendation whether to increase or reduce the MSP, it actually comes from a Commission on Agricultural Cost and Prices, CACP. But the approving authority automatically is the CA, that is Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Now, even going to the government sites, you will see that sometimes MSP are offered for different kind of products. In total, from government sites, even if I've seen some government sites reflect Government of India announces MSP for 23 commodities. Some say we announce MSP for 22 commodities. So I'll tell you what is it. But let me first tell you what is MSP. Right. So suppose if you're a farmer and you're growing rice. So you have two options to sell that rice in the market. Go to a mandi and sell them the rice, or go to a government agency like NAFED, like NCCF, and sell them the rice. Now, government agencies, if your rice fulfills their quality criteria, they will purchase your rice and they will offer you the price that is called as minimum support price, right? And you also have an option to sell your rice in the open market. But the problem in open market is sometimes the prices of rice may fall a lot. So in terms, suppose if government is offering you 30 rupees per kg for your rice, whereas market is offering you 25 rupees per kg for rice, where will you sell that rice? You will sell that rice to government for 30 rupees per kg because government is offering MSP of 30 rupees per kg. But if the price of rice for some reason increase in the market, now you are getting 33 rupees per kg for your rice, then you have an option to sell this rice in the market, right? What government is doing, it is kind of creating a safety net for you, that in case price of rice falls down below a MSP level, you have an option to sell your rice to government and government will pay you MSP of 30 rupees per kg. This is just an example. Price MSP of rice may be less or more also. But if the prices of rice in the market increases beyond MSP, you are free to go sell that rice in the market. So this is basically not a legal compulsion on either farmers or the government. Government is just offering you the price, which is a good price, but you have an option to sell that rice to other players also, like private players. Okay. Now, I told you, if you read from this Indian Express screenshot that I have taken, you will see that this screenshot says the government now fixes MSP for 23 crops, right? So it says 23 crops, but you will see here I have written CACP recommends MSP for 22 commodities. So why am I actually negating minimum support price referred by IE and me is different? Why is it different? I will tell you the reason. So I have actually, in my preparation phases, I was actually confused by this fact. So I don't want you to be also confused, right? So this is the entire list of which of the crops are, or MSP of which of the crops are announced by the government. So you'll see Government of India announces MSP for 7 cereals, which includes paddy, which means rice, wheat, maize, jowar, bajra, barley, ragi. Similarly, it announces MSP for 5 pulses: gram, tur, mung, urad, lentil. It announces MSP for 7 oil seeds and 3 commercial crops, which includes copra, cotton and raw jute. Sometimes government website says that Government of India announces MSP for sugarcane also, but this is and the looks of it, it is incorrect, because government doesn't announce MSP for sugarcane. Rather, government announces fair and remunerative prices for sugarcane, because the support prices for sugarcane are different than MSP. I told you in MSP, the farmers, they are required to sell their products to government agencies like NAFED, like Food Corporation of India, like National Cooperative Fund, right? But in fair and remunerative prices, the sugarcane farmers, they are selling their sugarcanes not to government agencies. They are selling their sugarcanes to sugar manufacturing companies, right? Or sugar mills. So it is actually the sugar mills who are paying this FRP to the farmers of sugarcane, right? But here it is the government who is paying the MSP to the farmers. So this is why I've excluded sugarcane from MSP. Therefore, if you add these commodities, the number will be 22. So it means 22 plus sugarcane is the right answer. Understood why sometimes government has also got confused with it. So the clerk who was typing it actually did not know the difference between FRP and MSP. Now I have told you, so it should be clear to you that Government of India announces MSP for 22, not 23 crops, because for sugarcane FRP is announced. FRP is different than MSP and I have told you the difference. If you still have any doubt, now is the right time to ask the question. Now, what is the present legal status of MSP? MSP, what you need to understand, it does not enjoy any kind of statutory recognition. That means MSP does not come up with a legal backing. How does MSP work? Nabjyoti, I told you, right? Suppose if you are growing rice, so you have two options to sell that rice. You can go to government agencies and sell, and you go to market and sell. Government agencies are declaring their prices in terms of MSP. These are called as minimum support price, which means irrespective of what market offers, we are going to offer, let's example, government fixed 30 rupees per kg MSP for rice. So when you sell your rice to government agencies will give you MSP of 30 rupees per kg for rice, right? But market prices can actually fluctuate. Market prices can actually fall below 30 rupees. They might offer you 25 rupees for rice. So if you are selling rice at market, you will make a loss of 5 rupees per kg in terms of MSP, right? But then, so you can go to government and sell your price MSP at 30 rupees. But suppose if market prices increases beyond 30, so why would you make a loss by selling rice to government? You can go to market and sell your rice at higher price, say 30 to 33 rupees and make a profit, right? So this is how MSP works. Government is guaranteeing that irrespective of what will happen in the market, I will offer you at least 30 rupees for your rice. I will not buy rice from you for less than 30 rupees. Understood how MSP works, Nabjyoti? Now you're from Assam, that is why I gave you an example of rice. Had you been from Punjab or Haryana, I would have given you example of wheat. Yes, 5 o'clock. But my discussion is not done yet, right? So, as MSP does not have a legal backing right now, so it is not an obligation on the government to purchase all the commodities for which MSP is declared. Generally, government says that my procurement will be open-ended. So, whatever will be coming to government agency, government will be procuring it. But you understand, government itself has a limited amount of capacity of storages. So, it can't theoretically buy all the commodities that is offered to you. So, that is why government in general procures more of rice and wheat, because it uses those rice and wheat to distribute in your fair prices shop, right? Ration card shop. Similarly, this is not an obligation on the government to pay MSP to farmers also. Government theoretically can pay even less MSP to the government or lesser price than MSP to the farmers, but government doesn't do that. But government is not bound legally to pay MSP to you. When does government declare it? I told you, before the sowing season. So they have declared for Kharif crops, they have declared now, because from July onwards, Kharif crops will be sown. And similarly, before Rabi crops are sown, they declared it on October, November. And also, MSP does not pose an obligation to the private sector to purchase commodities at MSP. Private sector can offer you price even less than MSP. So, this is the legal status of MSP. Understood? Any doubt? Now, there are different approaches to calculate what will be the MSP of that commodity. First factor is known as A2 method. Here, expenditure on various inputs which are paid by farmers, for example, seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, they are also calculated, and then you come to a MSP by inculcating all these factors or all the cost of inputs that the farmers generally make. No, they did not make a mandatory MSP. That is why I told you. MSP still does not have a legal backing. Some farmers were demanding to legalize MSP, but the government still, as of today, they haven't made MSP legal. Okay. Now coming back to our discussion, time is of crucial essence right now. Another factor is A2 plus FL method. Here, expenditure on inputs of A2 is also calculated, but implied cost of family labor is also calculated. Suppose if farmers are using their family members, so technically they are not paying salary to their family members, but implied cost is there, right? So that is also added to achieve MSP, that is called as A2 plus FL method. And the third method is called as C2 method, which includes A2 plus FL, but it also adds implied cost of rent of land that the farmers usually own and other implied cost that is associated with it. So suppose if the farmer is using his own truck to transport the goods, technically he is not paying for transport, but there is a cost that is associated with it. That is also an implied or hidden cost. So that is all added in C2 method, and this was the recommendation made by MS Swaminathan committee to fix MSP based on C2 method. But currently government fixes MSP based on A2 plus FL method, and farmers were saying that please adopt C2 method, right? And government has said we will pay 1.5 times of production cost based on A2 plus FL method. Understood? So for today, MSP is declared based on A2 plus FL method and 1.5 times more than A2 plus FL cost. Understood? Yes. Now let's see if you are able to solve this practice question quickly. This appeared in 2018 prelims. I gave you the entire list of crops. Go and remember it after the class, okay? Yes, option B is the right answer. See, turmeric isn't, areca nut isn't, coffee isn't. Rest all are there, okay? Now another PYQ of 2020. Yes, you have to remember all of these crops because this question appeared. Similar questions can appear also, right? Finger millet is ragi, yes. I have given the details here, okay? So, jowar is also known as sorghum, bajra is also known as pearl millet, and ragi also known as finger millet. Now, last question. एब्रीविएशन बना के रट लेना, ओके? अभी मत रटना, एग्जाम से पहले रटना, उसको सेव कर लेना कहीं. In case of all cereals, pulses and oilseed, the procurement at minimum support price is unlimited in any state and union territory. This is an giveaway word. How can government procure unlimited crops when itself its storage capacity is limited, right? Similarly, in case of cereals and pulses, the MSP is fixed in any state at a level which is at which the market price will never rise. This is theoretically not possible because what if market prices increases? MSP is not fixed based on market prices. It is fixed based on cost of production, right? So therefore, both of these statements are incorrect. Option D is the right answer, right? So this is how you are able to solve these questions because we provide you right information. Now this brings an end to our today's discussion. Left out articles, I know there are many. We will complete it tomorrow. You will find the notes on the Telegram channel ATS Live. So this is all from my side. Please have a very good evening. I hope bore नहीं किया हूँ मैं economy से, okay? So please have a very good night. Bye bye. Please do not forget to watch the 9 PM session also on 5th generation aircraft.